Flying a jet fighter is one of the most difficult activities that a pilot can perform, but the risk is not only running into an enemy aircraft that wants to destroy you, but also taking off and landing at high speeds with machines loaded with weapons and thousands of liters of fuel. Now imagine piloting an 11-ton mass that flies at more than 1,900 kilometers per hour and must land on a moving island just 300 meters long. 1 millimeter error, and you could end up biting the pavement or sleeping with the fish. In this new video from Military Aviation, we want to put you in the passenger seat of a fighter as it takes off and lands from an aircraft carrier, with all the challenges that this implies. Buckle up, because it's not going to be an easy ride. Before beginning, it is necessary to clarify that we will focus on the takeoff and landing of conventional aircraft. There are models like the F-35B or the Harrier, which use a vertical takeoff and landing system, but that is material for another video. And now, let's start. Most fighter jets can operate on runways of 500 and 800 meters in length. The problem is that the largest aircraft carrier on the planet, the USS Gerald R. Ford, is only 333 meters long. For this reason, assistance systems are necessary to help embarked planes to pick up speed immediately. In general, catapults are used, which can be steam or magnetic, the latter being the most modern. The device consists of a rail, below which is a piston that is attached to the aircraft's landing gear, or in some cases, to a cable called a bridle. At launch, a bar holds the aircraft steady while the system charges the vapor pressure needed to propel it. When that load reaches its maximum, the piston is released, which pushes the ship along the deck at high speed. In just 2 to 4 seconds, the speed of the plane is enough to take off. As for the magnetic catapults, they are known as MLs, and basically it is an electromagnetic system that pulls the plane to the end of the runway, giving it great speed. The gases that come out of aircraft engines can have a speed of more than 100 kilometers per hour and are hundreds of degrees in temperature. That is why, behind the takeoff position, there are barriers that are raised to divert the gases upwards, avoiding danger to the other occupants of the deck. Once the plane has taken off, the barrier is lowered to make way for the next aircraft. As for the landing, on a land runway, a miscalculation of a couple of meters is not a problem, but on an aircraft carrier it can be your death sentence. To this we add that the aircraft carrier is moving at a speed of approximately 50 kilometers per hour. And that's not counting the fact that the sea may have waves, in which case the runway will be oscillating up and down. To land on a carrier, fighters require a stop hook, which is basically what the name suggests. It is a mobile device in the shape of a hook that is attached to the tail of an aircraft and is arranged to be hooked to the stop cables. Keep in mind that the embarked fighters fly at an impressive speed. Without these cables, surely the 300 meters of runway would not be enough to slow down, and all the planes would end up on the other side, taking a nice bath of salt water. The stop cables are made of steel and can withstand very high tension. They are stretched out along the deck and both ends are attached to hydraulic cylinders below. When the stop hook pulls the cable, the hydraulic cylinder is responsible for absorbing much of the energy generated. This deceleration system can stop an aircraft weighing up to 24 tons traveling at a speed of 250 kilometers per hour in just 2 seconds. While hydraulic cables and on-deck equipment are vital aids, there are several challenges that stand between the pilot and safety. Being in the middle of the ocean, all you see around you is water, so it is very difficult to have clear references. In a conventional airport, the planes follow a pattern to approach, which makes it possible to organize the airspace well. On a moving ship this is impossible, and instead, there are 3 protocols that seek to ensure the survival of the pilot. These are Case 1 for days with good weather, Case 2 for days with low visibility, and Case 3 for days with very low visibility and night operations. Yes, pilots of embarked aircraft must also operate in the dead of night. Let's analyze Case 1. When a group of aircraft finishes their mission and wants to land, they first remain in orbit around the ship in what is known as Marshall, a circuit with a radius of 2.5 nautical miles, flying at a speed of 450 kilometers per hour. Once the plane enters this pattern, it must wait for the control tower to give it a space to land. Keep in mind that the runway must carry out landings and takeoffs constantly. Controllers always arrange things so that the track is not dead for a single second. To break out of the encircling pattern, the plane must draw an oval as altitude decreases and speed increases to 650 kilometers per hour. The plane must pass to the right of the ship and after a few seconds, perform a U-turn, that is, flying in the opposite direction of the ship while continuing to descend. At that moment, the landing gear and the stop hook that we previously described are lowered. But there is another complication. The nose of the plane must be slightly raised so that when landing the hook can make contact with the deck and cling to the cables. It is a game of surgical precision that must be completed in about 15 or 20 seconds. The plane makes the last turn heading towards the ship in a straight line, with a constant decrease in speed. In this last section, the pilot has to make some final adjustments to make contact with the surface in the right place. For this procedure, aircraft carriers have a system of lights that indicate if the flight height is too low or too high. In short, if the plane reaches the carrier at 250 kilometers of speed and with the correct angle, it is likely that it will be able to land safely. But, what happens if this is not achieved? Pilots generally have a landing effectiveness of between 95% and 100%. But from time to time they descend incorrectly and as soon as they touch the deck they have to go back to full throttle to reascend and land again. This is known as voltige. Up to this point we have described the operations of Case 1. Now imagine that same process, but with little or no visibility, guiding you only with light systems that indicate distances and speeds. If there is luck and a full moon, it slightly illuminates the track. Otherwise, you have to blindly trust the instruments and deck lights. That is essentially what cases 2 and 3 are about. These are just a few of the challenges embarked pilots overcome on a daily basis. If you want to continue discovering how the different air elements of the military forces work, we invite you to subscribe and activate notifications to be aware of all our news. We'll meet again in the next episode of Military Aviation.